Hi Meta, Alexandra, Claire and Courtney. Thank you so much for submitting your work and all your hard work during the semester. Thought I just might have a bit of a personal review of your work, just to let you know, record what I think of your work and where you might want to think about some improvements. So before I go, let's just run through your whole piece.
Music these days is very loud. All they do is scream and dance around in a hideous way.
We have these neighbours next door. They don't play the music loud. They play the music what I would call ear bleeding. Hey buddy, put your music down. These people, they have no idea what's going on. Those people are going to deaf.
What do I think of loud music? Well, I just sit and think that there's time and place for it, and it's not at 4 a.m. Speakers, loud, keeping everyone up.
Did I make money? Was I proud? Did I play my songs too loud? Did I leave my life to chance? Or did I make you fucking dance?
That's great. All right. First initial feedback, it's mainly the issues. I've got two issues. One of them is with your text, and the other one is probably more important is the audio. At the beginning, I just feel that there's a bit of a disconnected edit with the audio. You've got the really nice background, but then the woman comes in and her levels are way too high. She probably kicks in way above what I would consider as a reasonable level of a reasonable volume level for a person. Because if you listen later on to some of the other ones, if you look at the levels of her voice, comparing it to other interviews, I think he.
Hey buddy, put your music down. These people.
That's a good level of sound, I think, and you can kind of hear.
Dance around.
Now, I think that's largely to do with your recording environment, and I'm not 100% sure what the best way to deal with that one. Maybe you could go in there with some of your compression filters and maybe kill some of the higher frequency, because you've got that hollow sound which is really dominating her low frequency sounds.
Scream and dance around in a hideous way.
We have these neighbours next door.
It's largely the ambient sound. So that's just something, because I think you'd be hard pressed to get that kind of performance out of her twice. So planning is probably an important thing, but you live and learn. I know this is the first time you've done this sort of stuff, so I still think it's very, very good. This is a leopard skin. No, so this brings me to the next point here. The text, you've got this pink here, but I think that you perhaps would have considered working against your strong pink color here, because you can't read it. You have a legibility issue. First of all, there's a lot of text going on. You've got grey on grey, pink on pink, and it does become quite difficult to see after a while. It's moving, and I think it's good that you let it stay still for a while, and I think it's perhaps a good idea to have it moving, but to have it come out and stay still so we have a chance to read it, because there's a lot of text going on. So either to have it come out, almost 10% of young Australians are regularly exposed to extremely low, and if you want to work with the feeling of the motion of this blob moving, have it throwing the facts out, but make the facts stay still. So having them stay still so I've got a chance to read them, or the viewer has a chance to read them, is important, as is having some contrast. So maybe either having some outlines or choosing contrasting colors perhaps, or colors that are not necessarily present. If you don't want to break your palette, you can always pull out some of the darker greys here which aren't as present here, or just as long as there's some contrast. So either within your palette or breaking your palette, but there needs to be contrast or outlines or something to make it more legible. So same with these ones here. That's a good example. You've chosen a grey from the palette here. It stands out quite well. The several doesn't, because it's too close to it, the background colours, and the pink as well. It doesn't stand out. Here the pink works well in the absence of the pink. I think if the areas like the word noise might have been better off in pink, but the maximum might have been better off in a darker colour. So things like that to look out for, besides it staying still. And I don't think there was much to be gained in that kind of typography. I don't think it really, I know you're trying to get good phrasing there, that this is equals that, but you may have actually had one nightclub equals, and then you could come up right into frame and say several weeks worth of maximum allowable noise dose. So it focuses on that. You get your phrasing there. It's clear that one night of clubbing equals, because you've got all this space that you could use it, and it could be really like put that equals right in the middle of that pink thing, and use some of that extra screen space over there, because I think that is probably something that could be definitely strengthened in this piece, is the way in which you've used your space with these quite there's a lot of entropy here going. There's too much information to be absorbed in the period of time that you got there, so you need to throw it out. So this is better. This is better. And again, maybe to break it apart and don't have it moving around as much. Just have it, it almost feels like this has been thrown out of the blob. Maybe have it come out, stick to the plastic, and maybe that might have been a better idea, to have it kind of fly out, stick to plastic, and then sort of go like the blobs are doing here. To think of some kind of association between the blob and the text. This works really well. I like the way that, and I think that the irony in the piece at the end is really great. And my God, how awesome is this granny? That's just great. So your use of the color effects, I think, as well has worked well to set apart your characters. You've got your definite colors, your pinks, your oranges, and your greens for your characters. I think that that's a nice touch. Let me just run through my list of things I need to consider. So your typography, I think that you've done a good job with your typography. You've tried to have the nice feel of the classic granny, and then the rough guy, and then the girl. I think that all works well together. You may have tried maybe even a different graphical style, because he's got his hand-drawn style. She might have been a little bit different. And the granny is all very, I mean, I like the fact that you've chosen a curly style for the granny, a little bit more cursive handwriting. I think that suits the character quite well. The editing, I think, is great. I think the way in which you're using screen space is great. I like the fact that you've thought about that and decomposition in advance. So you're using actual video footage to create graphical structures, which I think is great. And yeah, so I've talked about the video editing. I think that's fine. You've really thought quite hard about your safe zones. Just be careful here with safe action. I think that when things are animating and they start to, it's not really into the safe action zone, but it's getting close. And yeah, so I commented on your text there. And yeah, this last segue is really great. I think that's a really nice touch. I've a personal issue with people chopping heads off. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just a personal thing, but I don't think you're going to get as much out of your character as you would had you just moved it a little bit down. Because I think she's got some interesting stuff to contribute to this. And if you needed to capture all of her dance, maybe just pull the camera out a bit. Just in general, when you're composing your shots, because I think that the granny does it quite nicely. There's a good bit of negative space above her head. I think that fits in nicely, but she has a head shot, and in a way he has a little bit too much head space above his head. So here it would be more of a use your frame a bit better in those two things. I love the concept, and I love the execution. I just think that in terms of composition, it could be maybe slightly different in its framing. So yeah, in general, I think that that's pretty much all I have to say. I'm very impressed with the amount of work that you've done and how well you've worked together as a group. And I wish you all the very best in your future careers and the rest of your degree. And I hope to cross paths with you sometime in the future. Take care. Bye-bye.